The Firmament, Finding the Truth. Please pause and read. We are told the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour, and this is what causes day and night to happen, but we're going to take a look at real observations to show how day and night really work and see how it aligns perfectly with Scripture. The first thing to understand is that on day 2 of creation, God made the firmament, which divides the waters below from the waters above the firmament. A few verses later, it says that God put the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament. The firmament is described as strong as a molten looking glass, and Scripture is clear that the sun is the one that's moving around the earth. Psalm 19:4-6 says that God pitched a tent for the sun, the firmament being the tent, and the sun runs its circuit. A circuit is a continuous closed path or loop which something travels from a starting point and eventually returns to it. And that's exactly what Ecclesiastes 1:5 says, that the sun hurries to the place it rises. Also, Joshua 10 talks about how the sun and moon were the ones that stood still and stopped moving for about an entire day. Now let's take a look at how day and night work, and then after we'll take a look at how the moon phases work. The sun and moon are smaller than we're told, and they're within the firmament running their circuits moving around the earth in a circular path. So whenever you see a sunrise happening, the sun is bringing its light and heat with it. Eventually, when it gets to be more over your head, that's when it's about middays, because the sun is closest to you when it appears over your head. And as the sun goes down in its setting, it's taking its light with it. So ultimately, when it gets to the vanishing point on the horizon where you can't see it, that's when nighttime occurs, is when the sun's light is so far away from your position that you can't see it anymore. The reason we can't see the sun all the time is not only because it's smaller than we're told and it takes its light with it as it runs its circuit, but it's also due to how the sunlight reflects off the glass firmament. And depending on what season it is and where the sun's at on its circuit, it will determine the amount of sunlight reflected off the firmament to create shorter or longer days. And we will get more into seasons in the next video and show how shorter and longer days work. But sunrise and sunset is all due to perspective. You can see the picture of these light posts on the streets. We all know they're the same height, but they seem like they're going downward towards the horizon, but that's just due to perspective. Same thing with a sunset. It looks like it's going down due to perspective as it moves further away from you. When it's rising, it's getting closer due to perspective. If you're in a long hallway with lights on the ceiling, the further the lights are away from you, it looks like they're going down. But you know the lights are the same height on the ceiling, and again, this is all due to perspective. The further something is away from you, the lower on the horizon it'll appear, whether it's clouds, an airplane, or the sun. So again, another example here is that you can see as the sun is further away from you, it's lower on the horizon. As it gets more above your head, that means it's closer to you. So the sun goes down, it's further away. The sun moves up in the air, it's closer to you. Now check this out. Have you ever seen photos like this from the Weather Channel or websites that show a weird looking daylight pattern like this? If you turn that map into a flat Earth map, this is how it really looks. And it's important to remember that the firmament is what causes this crescent-shaped light pattern over the Earth. Now, a few years ago, the Weather Channel put out this post on Facebook. They said that on July 8th, 2022 at 7:15 Eastern Time, 99% of the world's population will be on the side of the Earth facing the sun, meaning that essentially everybody will be experiencing some degree of sunlight at the same time. But the problem with that is that it's impossible to light up more than half of a ball. But if you turn their map into a flat Earth map, you can see how this phenomenon actually happens. On that day at that exact time, it is true that pretty much every continent receives sunlight except for Australia, but it's not because a sun 93 million miles away was lighting up more than half of a ball. It's because of where the sun was at traveling along its circuit near the Tropic of Cancer and how its light was being reflected off the glass firmament to create the crescent-shaped daylight pattern. Now for the moon phases. Just like the sun, the moon follows a circular path as well. It doesn't cross ways or slant paths or go in all kinds of directions. It has a circuit. So when the moon is in its full moon phase, the moon is furthest away from the sun on the opposite side of the Earth in the dark. Now, as the sun and moon move around the Earth, the sun travels a little faster than the moon. So as the sun catches up with the moon starts to lose its light. Because as we talked about in part 14, God says the sun is the greater light that rules the day. Eventually, when the sun is passing the moon doesn't give off hardly any light and becomes a new moon. Then when the sun passes the moon starts to regain its light back as it falls behind the sun and becomes a crescent. And then it gains more light as it enters the waxing phase, and then it regains all of its light as a full moon all over again. And that's essentially how the moon phases work. So when you see a moon rise in the morning before the sun, or if you see the moon in the daytime and it's in front of the sun, that means the moon is in its waning phase because it's losing its light as the sun catches up and gets closer to it. But if you see the sunset in the evening and the moon is behind it after the sun sets, or if you see the moon in the daytime and it's behind the sun, that means the moon is in its waxing phase because it's gaining more light as it gets further away from the sun, since again, the sun moves faster than the moon. In a later episode, we'll talk about how the eclipses work, but next time we'll cover how seasons work in part 16 of The Firmament, Finding the Truth.